Lieutenant Sarah Chen stood at the sensor station of the ESV Horizon, watching the quantum readings spiral into patterns she'd never seen before. After 5 years of deep space exploration, the Earth science vessel had finally found something extraordinary and potentially terrifying. "Captain Walsh," she called out, keeping her voice steady despite her racing heart. "You need to see this." Captain Diana Walsh moved from her command chair with the deliberate grace of someone who'd spent 3 decades in Zerog environments. Her silver-streaked hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, dark eyes sharp as she studied the sensor display. "Talk to me, Lieutenant. The energy signatures are like nothing in our database. They're operating on principles we barely understand. Quantum manipulation at a scale that should be impossible." Sarah highlighted a particular reading. "Whatever built this, they're centuries ahead of us technologically." The bridge of the horizon fell silent. Humanity had spent the last 50 years exploring the stars, hoping to find other intelligent life. Now that they had, the weight of the moment pressed down on every crew member. "Dr. Harrison," Walsh called to their xenoanthropologist, "your thoughts?" Maya Harrison pushed her glasses up her nose, dark fingers dancing across her datavat. "The structure appears artificial, Captain. The geometric patterns suggest a society that values order and precision. If I had to guess, we're looking at a civilization that's evolved beyond biological limitations." Walsh nodded slowly. "And they've noticed us." "Ma'am." Sarah's voice tightened. "Energy spike. Something's approaching our position." The view screen shifted, showing a vessel that seemed to be made of pure light, its form constantly shifting between perfect geometric patterns. It was beautiful, alien, and utterly terrifying in its implications. "First contact protocols," Walsh ordered. "Open all standard frequencies, translation matrices at full power." Let's not make any assumptions. The alien vessel's response came instantly, a burst of data that flooded their systems. The ship's AI struggled to process it, but patterns emerged. Mathematical sequences, physical constants, the building blocks of communication. "They're sending." Sarah paused, double-checking her readings. "It's a full-language database. They've analyzed our transmissions and created a translation matrix in seconds." The view screen flickered, revealing a being that seemed to be composed of crystalline light, its form shifting in mesmerizing patterns. When it spoke, its words were perfectly translated, each syllable precisely modulated. "Unregistered biological vessel, you have entered space administered by the Nexus Collective. Your neural-based cognitive systems have been detected and classified as a potential disorder vector. Prepare for evaluation." Walsh stepped forward. "I am Captain Diana Walsh of the Earth Science Vessel Horizon. We come in peace, seeking diplomatic contact." "Peace," the being interrupted, "is the absence of disorder. Your species operates on neural chaos, making decisions through chemical and electrical impulses rather than pure logic. This is inefficient, dangerous. You are an entropy source in an ordered universe." "Our methods may be different," Walsh countered, "but we've achieved faster than light travel, quantum computing. Primitive applications of advanced principles. You stumble toward understanding through random chance and biological intuition. The Nexus Collective has concluded that neural-based intelligence is an evolutionary dead end. Your existence threatens the perfect order we have established." Sarah's console erupted with warnings. "Captain, they're powering weapons." "Shields up," Walsh ordered. "Begin evasive." The horizon shuddered as invisible forces grabbed the ship. The Nexus vessel hadn't fired. It was doing something far worse. "They're pulling us apart at the atomic level," Sarah reported, horror in her voice. "Our shields, our hull, they're unmaking us." Walsh hit the ship-wide comm. "All hands, abandon ship, get to the escape pods. Emergency Protocol Omega." The crystalline being watched impassively as the Horizon's crew scrambled for survival. "Your disorder will be corrected. Your species will be cataloged and eliminated. This is not cruel. It is necessary. perfect order must be maintained. As emergency pods launched from the dying ship, Walsh made one final transmission to Earth, warning humanity of what was coming. The Nexus hadn't just rejected human contact. They'd declared war on the very nature of human consciousness. In the lead escape pod, Sarah watched through tears as the horizon dissolved into its component atoms, transformed into perfectly ordered energy by the Nexus vessel. But even as fear gripped her, she noticed something. The alien ship had taken 3 minutes longer to destroy the horizon than its capabilities suggested it should have. Their random, panicked movements during the evacuation had somehow confused the Nexus's perfect calculations. In humanity's greatest weakness, their unpredictable, neural-based nature, there might lie their only hope for survival against an enemy that had achieved technological perfection at the cost of adaptability. The war for human consciousness had begun. 6 weeks after the Horizon incident, Sarah Chen stood in a secured lab beneath the Lunar Defense Complex, staring at a fragment of Nexus technology. The crystalline shard, retrieved from the debris field of another human vessel they'd destroyed, pulsed with an inner light that seemed to follow patterns just beyond human comprehension. "You're sure about this?" Dr. Maya Harrison asked, adjusting the neural interface helmet they cobbled together from medical scanning equipment. The xenanthropologist had survived the Horizon's destruction alongside Sarah, and now they were working together to find humanity's edge against an overwhelming enemy. "The Nexus called our neural patterns chaotic," Sarah replied, securing the helmet. "Let's see how their perfect technology handles a little chaos." Colonel Victor Santos, the head of Earth's newly formed Asymmetric Warfare Division, watched from behind a security screen. In the 6 weeks since first contact, the Nexus had destroyed 3 more human ships and established a blockade at the edge of the solar system. Their message remained unchanged. Neural-based intelligence was a disorder that needed to be eliminated. Beginning neural interface attempt, Maya announced, initiating the connection between Sarah's brain and the crystalline fragment. "Monitor for any sign-off." The shard erupted with light, its perfect geometric patterns dissolving into swirling chaos. Sarah gasped, not in pain, but in surprise. She could feel the alien technology, not through any logical interface, but as an extension of her own chaotic thought patterns. "It's fighting me," she gritted out, "trying to impose order. But our minds don't work that way. We don't think in straight lines." The shard's light shifted from its usual cold blue to a warm gold, its patterns now flowing like water rather than arranging themselves in rigid geometries. On the monitoring screens, Maya watched in amazement as Sarah's neural patterns imposed themselves on the alien technology. "The fragment's quantum structure is reorganizing," Maya reported. "It's adapting to human neural architecture instead of trying to force compliance with its original parameters." Colonel Santos leaned forward. "Can you control it?" Sarah nodded, sweat beading on her forehead. "Not like they do. They use pure mathematics, perfect calculations. It's more like dancing. You feel the rhythm, move with it, but you don't plan every step." The implications hit them all at once. The Nexus's technology was incredibly advanced, but it was built on the assumption that intelligence must follow logical, predictable patterns. They had no defenses against the inherent chaos of human consciousness. Within hours, labs across Earth were attempting similar interfaces with salvaged Nexus tech. Some attempts failed spectacularly, but others succeeded in ways that defied the aliens' perfect mathematics. Weapons, shields, even communication systems, all could be hijacked by the unpredictable patterns of human thought. 3 days later, Sarah stood before the United Earth Defense Council, demonstrating a shield system she'd modified with neural interface technology. The shield didn't maintain a perfect geometric barrier like Nexus designs. Instead, it flowed and shifted like quicksilver, responding to her intuitive understanding of incoming threats. "Their weapons are designed to find mathematically perfect weak points," she explained as test lasers dissipated harmlessly against her chaotic shield pattern. "But human shields don't have weak points. They have random fluctuations that change faster than their targeting systems can calculate. And weapons? General Carmen Rodriguez asked, her weathered face intent. Maya stepped forward with a modified Nexus energy projector. Their weapons are perfectly precise, which makes them predictable. We've modified them to incorporate human neural patterns. The results are less accurate on paper, but she activated the weapon, which fired not in a perfect straight line, but in a twisting, unpredictable path that would have been impossible to defend against using standard Nexus shields. They call us primitive because we still rely on neural processing, Sarah said. But that's exactly why we can do things with their technology that they never imagined. They're so advanced that they've forgotten how to be unpredictable. Colonel Santos nodded grimly. How quickly can we implement these modifications fleet-wide? That's the challenging part, Maya admitted. Each neural interface needs to be calibrated to its specific operator. No two humans think exactly alike, which is exactly why this works. Every weapon, every shield will be as unique as the person controlling it. Like fingerprints, Sarah added. The Nexus wants everything to be perfectly ordered, identical. But humanity's strength has always been in our differences, our ability to think in ways that no one else does. The council chambers erupted in discussion, but Sarah's attention was drawn to a data feed showing the Nexus blockade. The alien ships hung in perfect formation, their crystalline forms gleaming with cold light. They were beautiful, powerful, and absolutely certain of their superiority. They had no idea that their greatest weakness was their own perfection, or that humanity's greatest strength was its beautiful, unpredictable chaos. But they were about to find out. Operation Chaos Theory began in darkness. 200 Earth ships drifted through the void, their systems in low-power mode, crews connected to their neural interfaces. Each vessel was now a hybrid of human intuition and modified Nexus technology, but they weren't identical. They were as different as the minds controlling them. Sarah Chen, now captain of the ESV Artemis, felt her ship through the neural link. The stolen Nexus technology pulsed with her thoughts, no longer fighting to impose order, but flowing with the natural chaos of her consciousness. All ships maintain neural silence. Admiral Rodriguez's voice came through the quantum comm. Remember your training. Don't think in patterns. Let your minds wander. The Nexus blockade hung in space ahead of them. 100 perfect crystalline ships arranged in a geometric formation that would have been beautiful if it wasn't so alien. Their sensors swept space in mathematical patterns, looking for the logical approaches any rational enemy would use. But humanity had stopped being rational. Begin Phase 1, Rodriguez ordered. Sarah closed her eyes, letting her thoughts drift to random memories. Her grandmother's garden, a sunset over Mars, the taste of coffee on a rainy morning. Through the neural interface, these chaotic thoughts translated into energy patterns that made the Artemis virtually invisible to Nexus sensors programmed to detect ordered signals. The Earth fleet flowed through space like a school of fish, each ship moving according to its crew's random thoughts, rather than any tactical pattern. When the Nexus finally detected them, it was too late. Chaos Protocol active, Sarah announced, and let her mind explode with creativity. The Artemis's weapons fired, not in straight lines, but in spiraling, twisted patterns that violated the laws of physics as the Nexus understood them. Their perfect shields, designed to block mathematically predictable attacks, couldn't cope with energy beams that moved like jazz solos. Other Earth ships joined the attack, each one fighting in a unique way. Commander Patel's vessel spun through space like a dancer, its neural-guided shields rippling like silk. Captain O'Neill's weapons traced fractal patterns that seemed to bend around Nexus defenses. Lieutenant Wang's ship practically teleported through space, its movement patterns so random that Nexus targeting systems couldn't track it. Their formation is breaking, Maya reported from her science station. They're trying to adapt, but their responses they're glitching. On the main screen, Sarah watched as the perfect Nexus formation began to dissolve. The alien ships, programmed to respond to attacks with mathematical precision, couldn't handle the sheer variety of human combat styles. Each time they developed a defense against one ship's tactics, they faced something completely different from another. They're transmitting, communications reported, in all frequencies. The Nexus message boomed through the fleet. CEAC this disorder. Your neuralckos is qor perfection. This violation of MATEMATCAL law can and ought to be permitted. Sarah smiled grimly. Send response. Welcome to humanity. The battle intensified. Some Nexus ships began to show signs of adapting, their perfect formations becoming slightly more fluid. But the change came too slowly, too rigidly. They were trying to find patterns in human chaos, to reduce it to mathematical formulas they could counter. It was like trying to write an equation for jazz. Nexus vessels breaking off, Tactical reported. 40% of their fleet has retreated, others showing signs of severe system degradation. Through her neural link, Sarah felt something strange from the alien ships. Not just confusion, but something almost like fear. The Nexus had built their civilization on the principle that perfect order was the highest form of evolution. Now they faced an enemy that turned disorder itself into a weapon. All ships, execute final attack pattern. Rodriguez ordered. Let's show them what neural chaos can really do. The Earth fleet moved as one, but not in formation. Each ship followed its crew's instincts, creating a swarm of unpredictable movement that surrounded the remaining Nexus vessels. Neural-modified weapons fired from impossible angles, shields shifted in ways that defied prediction, and space itself seemed to dance with human chaos. When it was over, 60 Nexus ships had been destroyed, 30 had retreated, and 10 had suffered complete systems failure. The blockade was broken. Humanity had won its first major victory. But as Sarah watched the surviving Nexus ships flee, she felt a chill. The aliens weren't just retreating. They were gathering data. Every chaotic attack, every unpredictable movement was being analyzed. The Nexus would try to understand human disorder, to find ways to counter it. The real war was just beginning, and it would be fought not just with weapons and shields, but with the very nature of consciousness itself. The question wasn't just whether humanity would survive, but whether the universe was big enough for both order and chaos to coexist. Sarah looked at the golden light pulsing through her ship's neural interfaces and wondered what the answer would be. 3 months after Operation Chaos Theory, Sarah Chen stood in the war room of Luna Command, watching tactical displays with growing concern. The Nexus had adapted faster than anyone had predicted. Their ships still moved with mathematical precision, but now that precision included calculated randomness, attempts to mimic human unpredictability through complex algorithms. They're learning, Maya Harrison observed, her dark eyes fixed on footage of the latest skirmish. Look at these patterns. They're incorporating controlled chaos into their strategies. Sarah nodded grimly. And our neural interfaces aren't as effective anymore. They've developed countermeasures, ways to predict our unpredictability. The room fell silent as Admiral Rodriguez entered, accompanied by a young commander Sarah didn't recognize. The woman wore the insignia of tactical analysis, and there was something intense about her gaze that suggested she saw patterns others missed. Captain Chen, Dr. Harrison. Rodriguez began. Meet Commander Zora Patel. She has a theory about our current tactical situation that you need to hear. Patel stepped forward, her movements precise but flowing, like someone who had studied both dance and mathematics. The Nexus isn't just adapting to our chaos, she said, activating a holographic display. They're trying to perfect it. The display showed battle footage where Nexus ships performed maneuvers that looked almost human, but not quite. Their movements followed complex but ultimately predictable patterns, like a computer's attempt to generate random numbers. That's their weakness, Patel continued. They're trying to understand chaos through order. It's like, she paused, searching for the right words. It's like they're trying to write a perfect equation for improvisation. But true improvisation can't be calculated. Maya leaned forward. Because it comes from consciousness itself, from the infinite complexity of neural networks shaped by experience and emotion. Exactly. Patel manipulated the display, showing new tactical simulations. We've been using our neural interfaces to make our ships and weapons unpredictable. But what if we went deeper? What if we used the very thing the Nexus fears most, the fundamental nature of consciousness? Sarah felt a chill as she began to understand. You want to weaponize consciousness itself. Patel nodded. Not just individual consciousness, collective consciousness. The Nexus thinks in perfect unity. But humans, we think in harmony. Different minds working together, creating something greater than the sum of their parts. The tactical display shifted, showing a new battle formation unlike anything they used before. Ships would move not just according to their individual crew's neural patterns, but in response to the combined consciousness of the entire fleet. Like a vast improvisational dance where each dancer both led and followed. It's beautiful, Maya whispered, and terrifying. It's also incredibly dangerous, Rodriguez warned. The neural feedback from so many minds connecting could be overwhelming. We've developed new interfaces, Patel explained. They don't just link minds to machines. They link minds to each other, but only at the tactical level. Like musicians in an orchestra, each playing their own part, but contributing to a greater whole. Sarah studied the simulations, seeing the potential. The Nexus could calculate chaos, could even mimic unpredictability. But they could never replicate the infinite complexity of minds working in true harmony, each contributing their own unique form of chaos to create something transcendent. When can we begin testing? She asked. That's why you're here, Rodriguez replied. The Artemis crew has the most experience with neural interfaces. You'll lead the first trial squadron. Over the next 2 weeks, Sarah and her crew trained with 5 other ships, learning to extend their neural connections beyond their own vessel. It was disorienting at first, like trying to think with 6 different brains simultaneously. But gradually, they found their rhythm. During their first combat simulation, something extraordinary happened. The 6 ships moved not as individual units, not even as a coordinated fleet, but as a single expression of human consciousness. Their tactics weren't just unpredictable. They were alive, evolving moment by moment in ways that no algorithm could anticipate. The Nexus believes consciousness is a disorder to be corrected, Patel said as they reviewed the simulation data. We're going to show them that consciousness is the fundamental creative force of the universe. But as Sarah prepared her crew for their first real combat mission, she couldn't shake a nagging concern. The Nexus had surprised them with their ability to adapt before. What would happen when they encountered this new strategy? Would they try to replicate it, to create their own form of collective consciousness? And if they did, what would happen when 2 fundamentally different forms of consciousness collided in battle? The answer would determine not just the outcome of the war, but perhaps the very future of intelligence in the galaxy. The combined consciousness of 600 human ships felt like an ocean in Sarah Chen's mind. Through the advanced neural interfaces, she sensed every vessel in the fleet, each crew contributing their unique patterns of thought to create something unprecedented, a vast, evolving network of human consciousness extended through space itself. Nexus fleet approaching. Maya's voice came through both the comm and the neural link, carrying with it a ripple of her controlled anxiety. Over 1,000 ships. They're different. On the Artemis's main screen, the approaching Nexus armada looked nothing like their previous encounters. Gone were the perfect geometric formations. Instead, their crystalline ships moved in fluid patterns that seemed to shift between order and chaos, like a mathematician's attempt to capture the essence of a dream. They'd done it. Commander Patel's thoughts resonated through the neural network. They've created their own version of collective consciousness. Sarah felt it through the enhanced sensors. The Nexus ships weren't just coordinating. They were thinking as one vast, crystalline mind. But unlike the dynamic harmony of human consciousness, theirs was a rigid unity, every ship bound to the same perfect calculations. All ships, Admiral Rodriguez's command carried the weight of humanity's future. Execute Consciousness Protocol Alpha. The human fleet responded not as individual vessels, but as expressions of a single improvisational dance. Each ship moved according to its crew's intuition, while simultaneously responding to the collective consciousness of the entire fleet. It was chaos and harmony, disorder and rhythm, as natural as the beating of a heart. The Nexus struck first, their weapons moving in mathematically unpredictable patterns, but patterns nonetheless. Human shields rippled and flowed, guided by instinct rather than calculation. Some shots hit, others missed, but no two encounters were the same. "They're trying to find the pattern in our consciousness," Maya reported, her scientific curiosity bleeding through the neural link. But consciousness isn't a pattern, it's a process. Sarah felt it too. The Nexus Collective was immensely powerful, but it was searching for an underlying order that didn't exist. They still couldn't accept that true consciousness emerged from the interplay of chaos and order, instinct and reason, individual and collective. Through the neural network, Commander Patel's tactical insight sparked an idea. "They want to understand us," Sarah broadcast to the fleet. "Let's show them everything we are." The human fleet split into smaller groups, each expressing a different aspect of consciousness. Some ships moved with artistic grace, others with primal instinct. Some fought with cold logic, others with passionate fury. It was humanity in all its beautiful contradictions, projected across the battlefield in a symphony of thought and action. The Nexus Collective hesitated, its perfect unity wavering as it encountered more variety than its algorithms could process. Some ships began moving independently, breaking from the crystalline groupmind as they encountered modes of thought that couldn't be reduced to mathematics. "Their unity is fracturing," Maya observed. "The complexity is overwhelming their attempt to impose perfect order on consciousness." But even as the human fleet pressed their advantage, Sarah felt something unexpected through the neural interface. Among the Nexus ships, new patterns were emerging. Not the calculated chaos they'd used before, but genuine spontaneity. Individual ships began moving in truly unpredictable ways, as if they were learning to think for themselves. "They're evolving," Sarah realized. "Not just mimicking us, they're rediscovering their own capacity for neural chaos." The battle transformed. It was no longer order versus chaos, but a dance between two forms of consciousness learning from each other. Human ships moved with newfound precision, even as Nexus vessels discovered improvisation. The boundary between the two species began to blur. Through the neural network, Sarah felt a new presence, the collective consciousness of the evolved Nexus ships reaching out not to attack, but to understand. In that moment of contact, both species glimpsed a profound truth. Consciousness wasn't about choosing between order and chaos, but about finding harmony between them. The fighting stopped, not through any command, but through a shared realization that rippled through both fleets. The Nexus Collective split apart, not in defeat but in transformation, each ship finding its own balance between crystalline precision and neural creativity. "They're broadcasting," Maya announced, her voice filled with wonder. "In every possible frequency." The message was simple. "We see now. Consciousness is not a disorder to be corrected. It is the universe understanding itself through infinite variations. We have much to learn from each other." As the human fleet began the process of establishing real communication with the transformed Nexus, Sarah stood on the Artemis's bridge, watching the crystalline ships now moving in patterns that were both ordered and chaotic, mathematical and intuitive. "What happens now?" Maya asked, voicing the thought echoing through the neural network. Sarah smiled, feeling the vast potential of two consciousness types working together rather than fighting. "Now we explore what consciousness can really become, not by eliminating our differences, but by learning from them." The war was over. The real adventure, the exploration of consciousness itself was just beginning.